Success shouldn't feel this exhausting. If you're winning on paper, but burning out behind the scenes, you aren't failing. You're stuck in a psychological bottleneck called a hurdle of stop. I've been there. On the outside, things look great, but I was secretly burning out, convinced I was just lucky, and waiting to be exposed as a fraud. I realized I didn't have a business problem. I had a mindset block. Whether it's imposter syndrome, perfectionism, or fear or failure, these aren't just feelings. They are growth bottlenecks. Identify your specific hurdle and get one immediate action step to regain your momentum today. Go to tuepodcast.net/quiz. That's tuepodcast.net/quiz to take the 3-minute assessment and get your report now. This is an Undiscovered Legacy production and proud member of Pod Nation Media Network. Welcome to Business Conversations with Pi and Piet 2.0, where the advice is real, but the voices are AI. I'm Scoob, and we're harnessing cutting-edge artificial intelligence to tackle real-world business challenges and deliver actionable strategies you can implement right now. Joining us is our newest AI voice, Piet, sharp, insightful, and ready to challenge conventional wisdom. The questions are real, the data is vast, and the insights game-changing. So buckle up, Scoob believers. It's time to get across the start line. Let's dive in.
Imagine you've built this software business, right, just out of your spare bedroom.
Right.
And it is humming along beautifully. I'm talking printing like 50 grand a month in MRR.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's the absolute dream for most founders right there.
Exactly. And then out of nowhere, a top-tier venture capitalist just slides into your DMs.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah. And they offer you a $2.5 million seed round. They promise quick diligence. And they're like, we can wire the money by Friday.
And I mean, most founders would be popping the champagne instantly.
Right. But this particular founder, they actually mocked the offer in a group chat, flat out rejected the check, and just decided to keep flying solo.
You know, it is a stunning reaction when you consider the whole mythology of Silicon Valley. I mean, liking venture capital is basically treated as the ultimate finish line.
Totally.
But we are seeing this massive psychological shift happening right now among founders. They're suddenly looking at that venture capital check, not as a lifeline, but, well, as a trap.
And that tension is exactly why we are dedicating today's deep dive to an email we just got. This came into our inbox at tuepodcast.net/askpi.
Oh, I love when we get these. What do they say?
Okay, so the listener writes, I am a new entrepreneur, and my startup is finally getting some real traction. The problem is we're starting to get attention from traditional venture capital firms. I know I'm supposed to be thrilled, but I am actually terrified. I hear these horror stories of founders taking VC money and completely losing control of their own companies. But I need capital to grow. Is there a viable alternative to the traditional VC route?
Wow. It's an incredibly self-aware question.
It really is.
And, you know, for you, the listener who wrote this, and really for anyone trying to build something of lasting value today, you are navigating a critical turning point in how businesses get built.
Yeah.
You're definitely not alone in that fear.
Absolutely not. So our mission for today's deep dive is to answer your question by exploring this massive pivot that's happening right now. We're talking about the move away from traditional venture capital and toward community-led funding.
Right. And to map this out, we're pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources today.
Yeah, what do we have?
Well, we're diving into the latest 2026 Trends Report from the Global Equity Crowdfunding Alliance, or GCA. Plus, we're looking at live meeting transcripts from creator platforms like Gumroad, active investment campaigns on WeFunder, and, like you mentioned earlier, those raw founder confessions from the r/sauce forums.
Yes, the r/sauce forums are gold for this stuff. So to really grasp why a viable alternative is necessary, I feel like we first have to deconstruct what exactly is driving founders away from VC money.
Oh, for sure. It goes way beyond just, giving up board seats. It's actually embedded in the financial structure itself.
Right. So let's go back to that founder on the r/sauce forum who rejected that $2.5 million.
Right.
When they posted their group chat reactions, one of the co-founders texted, "They're seriously about to send $2.5 million. I still hunt for 2-for-1 coffee deals."
That is hilarious.
Right. But then another founder pointed out the specific catch in the term sheet. They highlighted the preferential liquidation preference and wrote, "So if we crash, they get paid first and we get to keep the embarrassment." Adorable.
Okay, yes. That phrase, preferential liquidation preference, that is the invisible string attached to almost every single VC check.
Break that down for us because it sounds like legal jargon.
Yeah, we have to look at the underlying math of how a venture capital fund actually operates. So VCs know that out of a portfolio of, let's say, 100 startups, 90 of them will probably fail or just stagnate.
Right. The failure rate is huge.
Exactly. 5 might do okay, but 1 or 2 are going to become these massive billion-dollar hits. So because of that brutal failure rate, the entire fund's survival depends on protecting their downside and maximizing their upside on every single bet.
So they structure the deal to guarantee they get their cash out before anyone else if things go south.
Precisely. A liquidation preference means that in the event the company is sold, acquired, or liquidated, the investors are legally entitled to get their initial investment back, and often a multiple of it, like 2 times or even 3 times their money.
Wait, before the founders get anything?
Yep, before the founders or the employees see a single dime. So imagine you build a company for 5 years, you get totally exhausted, and you sell it for $5 million.
Okay. Sounds like a win.
But if you took $3 million in VC funding with a 2x liquidation preference, the investors actually take $6 million.
Oh, wow. So they take everything.
Right. You walk away with absolutely nothing but the burnout.
That fundamentally changes the objective of the company. It's like taking VC money under those terms is like agreeing to put rocket fuel in a standard Cessna airplane.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because you're no longer allowed to just fly a sturdy plane from point A to point B. The mechanics of the deal dictate that you either reach orbit or you disintegrate under the pressure. Building a healthy, sustainable $10 million business is considered a failure in the VC model.
It really is.
The goalpost immediately shifts to become a billion-dollar unicorn or die trying.
What's fascinating here is we actually have a perfect, fully documented case study of that exact rocket fuel dynamic playing out in our sources.
Oh, the Gumroad story.
Exactly. If we look at the transcript from Gumroad's 2026 annual meeting, the founder, Sahil Lavingia, walks through this entire agonizing cycle.
Yeah, and Gumroad is a huge platform for creators.
Right, so he started in 2011, he raised a seed round, then he raised a Series A, basically following the standard Silicon Valley playbook to the letter.
Sure.
And the VCs demanded that impossible, hockey stick, exponential growth curve to justify their investment.
But Gumroad is a great product. It was never going to be Facebook.
No, not at all.
It was a steady, incremental business. And when they didn't hit that exponential growth, they couldn't raise their Series B. The venture capital completely dried up, just leaving them stranded.
And the fallout was severe, honestly. Sahil had to lay off almost the entire company. They dropped from 20 employees to 3, and eventually it was literally just him.
Wait, one employee managing the entire platform?
Yes, one guy. But the most revealing part of the transcript is how he escaped that trap. Over several years, he cut all overhead, focused purely on creator revenue, and slowly, painstakingly, just stacked cash. Gumroad became highly profitable.
And he used that profitability to engineer this incredibly rare maneuver, right? Like, he didn't just coast. He actively bought his own company back.
Exactly.
He took $6 million of that accumulated cash and bought back shares from his early investors, firms like Collaborative Fund and Excel Partners, at a $49.5 million valuation.
He essentially bought out over 80% of those early investors, which gave them a massive 24x return on their initial seed money.
That's insane.
Right.
He paid millions of dollars simply to remove the liquidation preferences and that aggressive board pressure.
Yeah, just to regain the operational freedom to run the company on his own terms, pay out dividends, and avoid being forced into a premature IPO.
So to the listener who emailed us, this is the trap you are rightfully wary of. If traditional venture capital demands explosive, often destructive growth, where can a healthy, growing startup actually get capital without signing away their autonomy?
Well, the alternative is profound. Instead of pitching to partners on Sand Hill Road, companies are turning their biggest fans into their actual investors.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, the shift toward community rounds is rapidly becoming the new standard. And it's really being driven by structural changes in how everyday people are legally allowed to invest.
I mean, Substack is the perfect example here. They're valued at $585 million. They have over 35 million active subscriptions. They could easily secure another massive round of traditional VC.
Oh, any fund would take that meeting.
Exactly. But instead, they launched a community fundraising round on WeFunder, explicitly inviting the independent writers who use their platform to buy a slice of the startup. And the minimum investment was just $100.
Which is so accessible.
Completely. They targeted $2 million and absolutely shattered it, pulling in over $5.6 million.
Yeah, and to understand the mechanics making that possible, we have to look at the stabilization of regulation crowdfunding, or RegCF.
Right, because this wasn't always legal, was it?
No, not at all. For decades, the SEC restricted private startup investing to accredited investors, which is basically just a regulatory term for wealthy individuals or large institutions.
So the rich got to invest early and everyone else missed out.
Exactly. Everyday people were legally locked out of the highest growth phase of a company's life cycle. But RegCF dismantled that barrier. Platforms like WeFunder utilize this framework to allow non-accredited, everyday people to invest. It legally enables startups to raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period directly from the public.
It's completely democratizing the landscape. And it isn't just limited to massive software platforms either.
No, hardware too.
Right. Our sources highlight this hardware startup called Totem. They make these off-grid, decentralized compasses for music festivals so people can find their friends without cell service.
Oh, which is brilliant, honestly.
I know, right? So they hit $3.5 million in revenue and 50,000 users. They opened a public round on WeFunder with a $250 minimum, and they quickly secured over $1.4 million in committed capital.
The genius of what Substack and Totem are doing goes far beyond just securing operating capital, though. They are fundamentally weaponizing their cap table.
What do you mean by weaponizing it?
Well, when you allow a user to invest, even just a few $100s, you engineer a deep psychological shift. That person transitions from a passive consumer into a highly motivated brand ambassador.
Let's break down what that actually looks like in practice. Like if I drop $200 into Substack, my behavior changes immediately. I'm no longer just writing a newsletter. I am an owner.
Exactly. You have a stake.
Yeah. I am deeply incentivized to actively recruit other writers away from competing platforms and bring them to Substack because every new user increases the value of my own equity.
Same with Totem.
Right. If I'm at a music festival and someone complains about losing their friends, I'm not just going to casually recommend the compass. I am going to pitch it aggressively because I own a piece of the underlying company. You're essentially pre-funding your own viral marketing engine.
It's a brilliant alignment of incentives.
But, okay, I love the concept, but let me play devil's advocate for a second, because the logistics of this sound like a total nightmare.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
I mean, if you take our listener, they run a growing startup. If they open a community round and let 7,000 random users invest $100 each, doesn't their cap table become an absolute disaster?
It sounds like it would be.
Right. Getting signatures for basic corporate decisions would require tracking down thousands of people. Doesn't setting up the legal infrastructure to take $100 checks burn tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees? Does a startup really want to take on that administrative burden?
So that specific logistical nightmare is exactly what kept founders away from crowdfunding for years. But the legal infrastructure has evolved to completely solve that bottleneck. You do not put 7,000 individual people directly on your cap table.
Well, thank God. So what do?
You use an instrument called a special purpose vehicle, or an SPV.
Okay, break down the mechanics of an SPV for us. How does it actually shield the founder?
Right, so when you run a campaign on a platform like WeFunder, the platform establishes an LLC, that's the special purpose vehicle, specifically for that single investment round.
Got it.
All 7,000 of those retail investors pool their money into that one SPV. So when you look at the startup's official cap table, you don't see thousands of names. You see exactly one line item, the SPV.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and a designated lead investor, or a platform proxy, holds the voting rights for that entire entity. It completely protects your governance. The platform handles the massive administrative burden of document signing, K-1 tax forms, distributions, all of it at scale. So the startup isn't burning critical runway on legal fees.
Okay, that neutralizes the administrative risk. But what about pricing the company?
valuation.
Yeah, because if I take a check from a user today, I do not want to spend 3 weeks arguing with a guy on the internet over whether my startup is worth $4 million or $5 million.
Nobody wants to do that. And that is where the second piece of infrastructure comes in. The crowd safe.
SAFE stands for Simple Agreement for Future Equity, right?
Yep, exactly. It was pioneered by Y Combinator and then adapted for crowdfunding. A SAFE elegantly delays the valuation debate. It's basically a legal contract that says, you give us cash today, and we will convert this cash into actual equity shares later, usually during our next official price funding round, and we'll give you a slight discount as a reward for being early.
Oh, so it allows founders to secure capital immediately without locking in a premature valuation.
Precisely. It defers the complex math until a professional lead investor steps in later to set the price.
Which actually perfectly transitions to the insights from the Jesse 2026 Trends Report, because the report states we are entering the coordinated capital era, and it issues a pretty strong warning.
Cool.
Founders shouldn't just rely blindly on the crowd.
Right. The data proves that the most successful rounds utilize what they call a hybrid capital stack.
So what does that look like?
The hybrid capital stack is basically the strategic middle ground. The playbook is that founders should first secure a professional lead investor. This could be a highly respected angel investor in your specific industry, or even a smaller founder-friendly VC firm.
Okay.
This lead acts as the anchor for the entire round. They perform the heavy, professional due diligence, scrub your financials, and validate the actual worth and viability of the company.
But wait, doesn't bringing in a VC to lead the round completely defeat the purpose of avoiding venture capital control?
Not if you are dictating the terms. A lead investor in a hybrid stack doesn't automatically get those punitive liquidation preferences or the board control of a traditional seed round. They're primarily there to provide a signal of trust.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, their visible presence on the public campaign page triggers what behavioral economists call informed herding from the retail crowd.
That makes a lot of sense. Everyday users might love your product, but they don't know how to evaluate a balance sheet.
Exactly. Seeing a respected professional investor put down substantial money provides the vital social proof the community needs to feel safe investing their own $200.
It is a brilliant psychological lever. You use the professional money to basically unlock the community's wallets. So taking all these mechanics, the trap of VC math, the rise of SPVs and SAFEs and hybrid capital stack, we need to distill this into a concrete strategy for the listener who emailed us.
Definitely.
They're sitting on a growing startup, terrified of losing it, but they need capital to scale. So what does this all mean? What is the exact playbook here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, based on the synthesis of all these 2026 sources, there's a really clear 3-part playbook for navigating this pivot.
Okay, let's hear it.
Step 1. Leverage your profitability. If your product currently covers its own operating costs, like that forum founder generating $50,000 in MRR, you possess the ultimate leverage. You have the runway to say no.
Right.
Never accept venture capital if it comes with golden handcuffs, like aggressive liquidation preferences that squeeze you out of your own eventual exit. Build a sustainable baseline first. It just makes you dangerous in negotiations.
Profitability is the ultimate defense mechanism. It turns capital from a desperate requirement into an optional accelerant.
Beautifully said. And step 2, combine forces to build a hybrid capital stack. You don't have to choose exclusively between professional investors and your users. Balance the two ecosystems.
So get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. Secure a strategic, aligned investor to anchor you around someone who provides industry introductions and deep expertise. But mandate that a specific allocation of the round be carved out on a platform like WeFunder for your community. Use that allocation to build a moat of hyper-loyal users who will fiercely champion your brand because they own a piece of it.
So you bring in the smart money for strategy and the loud money for marketing.
I love that, yes. And finally, step 3, use the right infrastructure. Never, ever compromise the cleanliness of your cap table.
Keep it clean, people.
Utilize those SPVs to pool the crowd into a single entity and use crowd safes to defer the complex valuation debates. This ensures you maintain total operational freedom while still giving your community the financial upside they deserve.
That is an incredibly sharp, actionable roadmap. So, to our listener, take a deep breath. Capital is no longer a monopoly held by a few firms on Sand Hill Road.
It really isn't.
The entire landscape has decentralized, and your community, the people actually engaging with your product every day, can become your greatest asset. You can fund your growth without selling your soul or strapping rocket fuel to your Cessna.
And while that solves the immediate problem of how to fund the company, the sources actually point toward a much more profound question.
Oh, what's that?
We have spent this whole deep dive figuring out how to bring the community onto the cap table. But what happens at the end of the journey? What if we move beyond just changing how we fund startups and actually change how we exit them?
Oh, you were talking about the ultimate finish line. Because right now, the entire startup ecosystem assumes the end game is either going public via an IPO or getting swallowed whole by a massive corporate conglomerate.
Right, which is the standard capitalist extraction model. But I am looking at some fascinating research from the Siegel Endowment and the Schumacher Center for New Economics. They are actively exploring a concept called relationalized finance, or more commonly, an exit to community.
Exit to community. So rather than selling the company to private equity, the founders sell the company to its own users.
That is the core mechanism, yeah. These researchers are designing legal frameworks where instead of pushing toward a traditional acquisition, a founder eventually transitions the entire stewardship of the company over to the community itself.
That is mind-blowing.
Imagine a scenario where a startup becomes highly profitable. Instead of paying out dividends to venture capitalists, the company uses its profits to gradually buy out the early investors, much like Sahil did with Gumroad.
Right.
But then it transfers that equity into a perpetual purpose trust, or maybe a cooperative model governed by the users and the workers.
That completely rewrites the rules of the economy, the voting rights, the governance, the future direction of the platform. It all shifts from a distant boardroom to the actual people who rely on the utility of the product.
Exactly. It breaks the cycle of extraction. The profit motive shifts from quarter-over-quarter hypergrowth to long-term sustainability and platform maintenance. The users become the ultimate stewards of the ecosystem they helped build.
It really invites us to completely reevaluate why we build businesses in the first place. Like, what if the ultimate goal of entrepreneurship isn't building a billion-dollar unicorn just to sell it to the highest bidder? What if the highest achievement is building a vital utility to share?
It's a completely different paradigm.
It is. You don't have to risk an explosion to satisfy an investor's portfolio math. Sometimes the most revolutionary act in business is simply building a sturdy plane, inviting your community into the cabin, and enjoying a really long, sustainable flight together.
And that's a wrap, Scuba Believers. You just experienced the power of AI-driven business insights with Pi and Piet 2.0. Real advice, artificial voices, unlimited potential. If today's episode sparked an idea, challenged your thinking, or gave you that breakthrough moment, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a fellow entrepreneur who needs to hear this. Got a burning business question? Want Pi and Piet to tackle your specific challenge? Head over to tuepodcast.net/askpi and submit your question right now. We'll dive deep into your issue and deliver the actionable strategies you need to get across the start line. Remember, Scuba Believers, the hurdles aren't in the way. The hurdles are the way. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep taking action, and we'll see you in the next episode. Hello, Scuba Believers. Let me ask you a real quick question. How many cups of coffee have you had today? 3, 5, 7? And let me guess, you've got a Red Bull in the other hand just in case, right? Yeah, I see you. Now, here's the truth bomb nobody wants to hear. You're not building a business. You're building a caffeine dependency. Listen, I get it. When you're grinding 12, 14, 16-hour days, you're building something from nothing. When you've got payroll to meet, investors to impress, and visions that won't wait. You need fuel. But what if I told you that the fuel that you're using is actually slowing you down? What if the very thing that you think is keeping you sharp is actually making you dull? Enter Rise Coffee. This isn't your grandma's mushroom tea. This isn't some hippie wellness trend. This is science meets performance. And here's what makes Rise different. Less than half the caffeine of a regular cup of coffee. But here's the kicker. You won't miss it. 6 organic powerhouse mushrooms, including cordyceps, what Olympic athletes use, and lion's mane, what Silicon Valley biohackers swear by. Sustained energy that doesn't spike and crash. We're talking smooth, clean power from morning to moonlight. Crystal clear focus without the jitters. Imagine closing the deal with calm, confident mind instead of the caffeine chaos. Gut health and immune support, because what's the point of building an empire if you're too sick to enjoy it? So here's the challenge to you. Stop borrowing energy from tomorrow. Stop running on fumes and call it a hustle. Stop wearing your caffeine addiction like a badge of honor. Real entrepreneurs optimize, real entrepreneurs adapt, real entrepreneurs win. You can't win if you're crashing at 2 p.m. while your competition is just getting started. Break the cycle. Head to risesuperfoods.com right now and use code PODNA15 for 50% off your first order. That's PODNA15 for 15% off. Try it for 30 days. If you don't feel the difference, if you don't feel sharper, calmer, more focused, more alive, then go back to your 6-a-day cup habit. But I'm telling you, we won't, because once you feel what real energy feels like, you'll never go back. Ditch the addiction. Fuel your empire and rise up. Rise Coffee, energy that builds, not burns.